My name is Brandon Hartung, and I'm a missionary who travels the world, sharing stories that inspire God's people to have an impact in His work across the globe. Today's episode is sponsored by Highland Park Church. Highland Park Church is one church in two locations, Fayetteville and West Fork, Arkansas. Our focus is to build better people through Christ, because we believe Jesus makes us better in everything we do. Check us out at highlandpark.church for more information. We're joined here today with Douglas and Leslie Aaron, and you guys are missionaries with Fulcrum Missions, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I'm off to a good start there. I got everything off batting 100 or 1,000, I guess. So glad to have you on the podcast today, and just looking forward to hearing about what you guys do. But more than that, just your heart for people and God's kingdom around the world. And you guys are doing some amazing things. And we've been connected via Facebook for quite a while.
Yeah.
And just our mutual love of missions and helping people and pointing people to Jesus. So I'm excited to get to share you guys and what you do on the podcast and social media and all that stuff. So let's just jump right into it. Like, who are you? Where do you work? And give people a little overview of what you do.
Sure. I'd like to first off say thank you. Thanks for making time for us, brother. Yeah, we've been circling each other's wagons for a couple of years now, through Facebook Messenger, trying to get connected on projects and whatnot. And here we finally have a chance to even just talk face to face. So thank you for making time for us. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And the work that you're doing in Honduras, what we've seen, and helping other missionaries get their story out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so we're Fulcrum Missions. We are operating underneath the fiscal sponsor Christian Ministry Alliance. And we just got started really officially about 3 years ago. But we've been doing mission projects for years before Fulcrum Missions officially became a name. And I got started in missions when I was 19 years old and went to South Africa. And I slowly moved into missions. It wasn't something that I knew from a young age. God is calling me to do this. I figured life was in America and all that stuff. But I wanted to take some time off in between university, between bachelor's and master's degree, different things like that. So I went to South Africa first. And over the course of some months and even up to 2 years, God was working on my heart that that's where He was calling me to be, was in missions. And so when Douglas and I met, that's what I told him on our first date, is that I'm into missions. This is what I'm dedicated to. I don't know what that looks like, but that comes with this package. So.
And honestly, I thought she was cute, so I'm like, whatever. I'll just agree.
I'll do it.
Date.
Yeah, I'll do whatever you want to do. Go wherever you want to go.
I didn't realize that her words were like genuine. In fact, when we got married, we had about a week and a half long honeymoon, and then she was gone off to Uganda. And I was left alone with a cat. Two things I've never really been good with. And I was like, oh, she was serious. She's spending time with the Lord. So it was a good opener as to missions and what she meant.
Yeah. Did you do any missions work or anything before you got married?
No. I mean, we were a very quick 9 months fit to finish. Date to marriage was 9 months. So I didn't have time.
He didn't even have his passport yet when we were married.
Wow. So you really guide him through the experience, huh?
Yeah. It took a couple years to get him. He was kind of disinterested a little bit in missions at first.
Very much so.
But I dragged him into it. So I knew if I could get him out there, that this would open up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my world was, United States, America. I was a pastor and recovery pastor, especially in Celebrate Recovery. And I felt that was enough. I had no interest whatsoever in leaving America. I didn't even know, honestly, with my background and everything, I didn't even know it was possible. I grew up in the 70s and 80s where I was taught that traveling was only for the rich and the elite. I just had no idea that that would ever be in store for me. But there was a moment where I think it was Honduras, La Esperanza, Honduras, with the Lomans.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for nutrition help in their program. And Leslie's like, "Oh, this is what I do." And we were talking, and I don't know how it came up, but I was like, we were talking about my work and contracting. I was like, you know what, babe? You have no idea what my life is like, what my job is like outside of the home. She's like, yeah, well, you don't know what I do for missions. And I'm like, you're right. I guess I don't. I'm clueless. So we made this deal where if she came out to my job site for 2 weeks, I would go on a short-term 2-week mission trip with her to Honduras. And sure enough, she did. I mean, she was under the house in the crawl space helping me hang installation. She was out there painting, doing whatever, taping things off for us. And she was out there on the job site every day for 2 weeks with me and my crew. So I was like, well, okay, I guess I got to go out on the mission field. And that's how she got the Lord, however, got me out into doing missions.
Well, you didn't realize this missions already puts that in you that you do whatever you got to do, and you might be doing some random whatever. She's already in the right headspace for that.
Yeah, that's how it is out there, man. And yeah, we went, met the Lomans, went to the dump site out in La Esperanza. Was it, you call it a dump site, the city dump? And there I saw 2 little girls. I think one was 9 and one was 11, with homemade rakes, raking through, piles of rubbish for anything that was recyclable. And I saw them, and it was raining. They were muddy, and as soon as I saw them, dude, I just dropped to my knees and put up my arms to hug them. The little wet, muddy messes, and my heart was absolutely changed that moment. It was like the guy in the Bible who finds a gem in the land. So he goes back and he sells everything to be able to purchase that. And that's how I felt with missions. I was like, as soon as that happened in my heart, I was like, okay, this is where the Lord is. This is where his kingdom is. And I wanted anything and nothing to stand in the way. So yeah, it's been a process. We did a bunch of 2-week trips. Sometimes we started doing a month. And now we're trying to be as full-time as possible, because this is where the gem is. This is where the Lord's kingdom is, and I want to be part of it.
Yeah, I love that story. That's always impactful and represents well that kind of light bulb moment for people like, whoa, I got to do whatever it takes to keep doing this. It's addicting when you find what you're created for.
Yeah, finding the presence of the Lord, and I will chase that. Like it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and that's exactly what I feel like. For me, my calling is what I'm doing. Like, yeah, are we spreading the message of the kingdom? Absolutely. Are we serving the underprivileged? Are we serving those on the fringe of society? By serving God, by serving people? Absolutely. But it's not that altruistic. I'm honestly chasing and seeking after the presence of the Lord. So it's somewhat so.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where did you guys go from there? You started kind of doing these short-term trips where you asking God, like, where do we go full time? Or that's kind of I think a lot of people maybe even go on a short-term trip and they're going, well, maybe I should be full time, or they don't really know. And that's a sticking point for a lot of people. Easy to turn back if you're not sure, How do you take that? Or how did you guys take that next step of going, okay, we trust you, God. We know you're calling us, so we're going to take this step into what would be invisible air or something. It's a step of faith.
Yeah, we consider the connections that God puts in front of us as open doors, and we see what happens when we walk through those doors. So we've done sometimes some partnerships or even contract work with other larger NGOs and nonprofits. And we've also done our own independent projects as well, where we've just been connected to somebody locally who says there's a need here. We would love for you to come and we go and we join them. So right now we're sitting in Nicaragua because the Spanish pastor at our church back home is from Nicaragua. He moved back here to retire, and he said, come visit anytime. And so we did at one time, and now we keep going back. That's often how that works. And that's the same with our other major project we have going on in South Sudan right now. I got connected to them in Uganda when they were refugees there. And they said, we really want to have a school built in South Sudan when we return. Can you help us with that? And I said yes. Douglas said, heck no, I'm not going to South Sudan. But
I did say we could send him some money if the Lord gave it to us.
But, just like I got him to go to Honduras, yeah, he ended up in South Sudan.
You have your ways.
And honestly, I hate not being in South Sudan. I feel like when I'm not there, I feel like I'm not at home. And
Wow.
It's just, I love the children. I love the orphans. I love the rehabilitating child soldiers. I love the lost boys of South Sudan. Yeah. So when we do say we're full time, let's preface that with we are as full time as we can be. We're about 6 months on the mission field and about 6 months at home because we still work. We don't. When we do fundraise, we're not fundraising for somebody to pay for our rent or our car insurance or our Netflix account. Those are the things that we pay for ourselves when we come home and we work. And then when we fundraise, all the proceeds, all the profits go straight to projects. I would like to see that still change. Obviously, what missionary wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't want to see $500,000 in your account so you can live off the dividends and keep the principal? That'd be great.
Yeah.
We're not there. That's not who we are yet.
God's timing.
Yeah. But we don't. Yeah. But, it's like I feel like everything we do, which I'm so grateful for, is mission work, if you will. Like when we come back home, our whole objective is to take this message to the churches as well and encourage them. Maybe you can not buy the 80-inch TV. Maybe we'll just stick with the 45-inch and you can live on less to give more.
Yeah.
But yeah, South Sudan, I did not want to go, brother. I wanted to send them money. In fact, I said many times, can't we just send them money? I have no interest in Africa. I don't want flies in the eyes. I don't want mosquitoes. I don't want any of that.
Yeah. It's amazing how God can give you a grace for some of that too whenever, you're called. Because like sometimes I've been places people are like, you're going where again? War zones and everything else. And people are just like, you are crazy. I'm like, man, if you know that God is sending you there, there's just like a peace that passes all understanding. Like it doesn't make human sense, but if you're walking in it, you're like, well, okay, all right. Like I'm ready. There's an excitement to go whenever
and it becomes a more beautiful place than what you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
The consumerism and the comfortable living all of a sudden becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, even today we were at a friend's house here in Nicaragua, and they have trash bags as wall dividers, so they have privacy. Have dirt floors, and a very patchy tin roof,
Like this,
like what you see above us, but even less than what we have here, and that's what feels comfortable. That's what feels comfortable. When I go to a house in the United States, it's got the plush carpeting, and the stuff on the walls, and it was like I don't feel comfortable here.
Yeah. It's not your world anymore.
Not anymore, man. God calls. So.
Well, tell us about, you were talking about South Sudan. I know you got a good story working with these ex-child soldiers. What is that like, and what's a story that's really stuck with you in your heart and your mind?
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas is our lead builder for the school. There's so many stories in South Sudan. How do you pick one? I will say this, that their depth in their relationship and trust in God makes me feel so poor that the only thing that we have to offer them is money. Like they're the ones that are teaching us about God. I mean, the one gentleman that we work with, Hector, he was a lost boy of South Sudan. And for anybody listening, if you don't know about lost boys, there's many books and movies that you can find out about them and the hardships that they had to do and are still enduring. But he went to the Kakuma refugee camp set up in Kenya for the boys that were displaced during this war. He went there, heard about the message of Christ. Wasn't about going to university, wasn't about going to go get your master's of divinity. He heard the message of Christ and immediately went back to South Sudan to tell his tribe about this God, this King Christ. And in so doing, is what started this whole boarding school idea for the community. And that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I love the fact that all he had to do was hear the message of Christ, and he was so on fire, he went right back into the war. He's like, come on, let's go tell the message of Christ. But the guy that I'm talking about, Thomas, is our lead builder for the school. He's from Uganda. And we just sat down and he just opened up his heart about how when he was 12 years old, he and his brothers were taken hostage and kidnapped to become child soldiers. And it was under Coin, who was the dictator and leader of Uganda at the time. This guy's still alive, still a pile of garbage, in my opinion. And then, just to listen to these stories at the age of 12, how he would have to endure being caned and beaten with sticks, how for years they were living out in the jungles and in the forest without any protection, without any clothing. I mean, his biggest complaint was they didn't even have Colgate to brush their teeth. He's like, I was like, I could think of worse things to complain about. But caning and beating was definitely what they would use as fear tactics to keep you there, and as starvation as well. And the things that he said that he had to witness just blew me away to find out that he still has this peace and this connection to God that I don't know if we could ever grasp without going through what they went through. He was talking about how, they found they came across some people and a guy who tried to dress as a civilian because he didn't want to be beaten or anything, but they found out that he was a soldier, and so he was forced to put a red hot coal in his mouth, and he wasn't allowed to spit it out or he'd be killed until it turned into a black coal. So his whole mouth, tongue, throat, everything was just burned. And then they would cut the lips off of people, women especially, and men. So it's nothing but teeth bearing. And these are things that he had to witness and be a part of when he was from the ages of 12 to almost 15 years old. Watching women have to kill their own babies. Just things are just terrible things that we can never experience. And
It's demonic.
Absolutely. But then to hear how he's been able to make peace with these things through the forgiveness and the grace of God is just amazing. And it was people that went to help. You don't know how far your help will go. But it was people, like he said, he learned to trust what white people say, which made me feel really good. That our words have somewhat of integrity. But it was just like one white lady went over there and set up funding to get children back into school. And so now to be able to work with him as an ex-child soldier who one white person was able to get him back into schooling. And I mean, he was like 16 years old and in 4th or 5th grade. But he went through the schooling to become a builder. And now he's over in South Sudan building for orphans of war and other ex-child soldiers. So it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And to watch him play with the children. Like when he's done working for the day, he'll take a quick bath and then come out with the soccer ball and play soccer all day with the children that he used to be as well. It's a great turnaround story, and we love to be a witness to all of this.
Yeah. And for people that don't do missions and aren't in that world, when you say white person, you mean like a missionary or not like that. It doesn't have to do with the color of the skin. It's just the person, the people that come from somewhere else to help, and that's obviously the main thing they're drawn to with.
Yeah.
I think Malawi, they call, what do they call white people? What do they call? Is there a specific name in Sudan that?
There's a few. I mean, there's Mazunga.
That's what I'm hearing in Malawi all the time. So that must cross borders then.
And what is the one in South Sudan and Uganda that they call us?
I can't remember.
Yeah. But those were his words, the white person.
Yeah.
But Mazungo here, it's more of a derogatory term, but gringo.
Yeah, true. In Latin America, gringo. Same idea, yeah. So, Leslie, you've traveled even, I guess, to more places. I don't know how many places you've been to, but I'm sure you've come across some pretty crazy, wild stories. And I heard you've been to Bangladesh. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did some work in the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh in 2018. I went there using my nutrition skills, and the organization I was with had set up some clinics, and my role was to integrate nutrition into these clinics as we referred out malnourished children to other programs, got them connected to the services that they needed to get healthy again. And right away when I got there, I quickly realized that there was really a gap in the messaging that we were giving the patients. They weren't understanding the purpose of why we were referring them. They thought we were referring them because we didn't know how to help them. And so they thought, well, if people don't know how to help us, why should I bother going to a clinic? And so I decided I need to follow up with these patients and explain this referral is for specific nutrition help for your child. It's a program where they will give your child food if you show up. And so I started off and I was looking for this one particular girl, and she had a very generic name. And we didn't have a lot of information about her. The way that the camp was set up at that time was most people didn't have a cell phone. The group leader, who's called a Mozzie, would have a phone, and that would be the phone for about 100 people to use. So that was as close as we could get to where she might be. So I went with my interpreter to the area that this Mozzie covered. That was his area. And we said, we're looking for this girl. We know half the girls have this name here, but we're looking for this girl who came to our clinic. Can you help us find her? And so they went to the mosque, and they used the loudspeakers to announce over the mosque.
Wow.
Attention everyone, we are looking for this girl. Will the parents of this girl bring her to the Mozzie's house? Well, because it was announced across the whole area, everyone came. And that house was just crowded. It was crowded with parents. It was crowded with children. And it really reminded me of the stories you read so much in the Bible of Jesus, of these crowded homes, and let the little children come to me. And just a very humbling moment of maybe, just maybe, this is what it looks like to walk in Jesus's steps and do what he did, like he told us to do. And we found the girl, and I explained the purpose of the referral, and you can go here, get free food for your child. The father was very happy to hear that. And again, he had thought we were just referring her to go get medication somewhere else, and it seemed useless to him. And then I started to have other parents ask me to help their children. They thought I was a doctor, and they would say, can you please help my child? She's had a fever for 3 days. Can you please help my baby? He has this and that wrong with him. And it was really hard to have to tell them, not only do I not know how to help you, but I can't help you here. You have to go to a clinic. And then I scanned the room, and I noticed this little girl, and she was so tiny. both in size, but also just even her arms were very thin. And I couldn't quite tell how old she was. And depending on the age of a child, there's a different nutrition intervention that we use. And the cutoff is at 6 months. So I couldn't tell if she was under 6 months or over 6 months. So the man who was holding her, I asked, how old is that girl? And he said, oh, I don't know. And I said, oh, are you not her father? And he said, no, I'm not her father. I said, okay, so like, who is her parents so that we can find out the age of this girl and I can determine how to help her? And he said, well, here's the thing. When we were fleeing Myanmar and the government soldiers were shooting at us, we were just taken off out of the village. He said, I was running and I heard the sound of this little girl crying. He said, I looked around and I saw her on the ground in between the bodies of her mom and dad who had been shot and killed. And he said, I just picked her up and kept running. And then he paused and he said, so I guess that means I am her father. And it was just such a humbling moment of, here I've come to help. Here I've come to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And here's a man who sees a need and feels a need in his own community. And I think sometimes we forget when we go on mission work that the people who, that's their reality, that's their lives, they don't get to fly home and leave it behind. They are the ones working there on the front lines every single day, doing the hardest work that there is to do. And that's part of what we do at Fulcrum Missions. We don't come in to save the day. We don't come in to tell them how it's done. We come in and we find Christians, churches, parachurch ministries that are doing that hard work in their community. We say, what are you doing? How can we help you? We can help you bring in funding. We can help bring in expertise that you're wanting. But we ask them first, what are your needs that we can support? And so that's how we work. It's very much led by the community because we've seen that those are the ones who truly are getting the work done.
Yeah, that's always awesome. I say to give people a hand up, not a handout. It's a hand up.
Absolutely.
People, that's part of what has drawn me back to Honduras so much. Just I've worked with other missionaries there before, but then you just meet the people and they're so hardworking and all they need is, like you said, Douglas, sometimes it's all they need is just a influx of money because they're doing so much more than even we would if we were in the same situation. You know, it's humbling. You're just like, I got to do whatever I can do. They're already doing what they can do. I got to do what I can do, and then we'll see what God can do.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's a way to do it where when the project is done, they can look back themselves and say, look at what we did.
Yeah.
And we're not even remembered. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So.
Yeah. What a point.
That's how we started with the school in South Sudan too, was we went there, they said, we want to build a school. And we went there, we had a meeting with the community and the community members, the community leaders, the chief of the tribe. And we said, what would be most beneficial to your community? And they all said, we want a school. And this is a place where there's no development whatsoever to speak of. You could pick absolutely anything you want to work on, health, water, food, anything. And they said, we want a school. And we went with that because we know that they're the ones who know their community best. We're not going to come in and tell them, this is what you actually need. We're going to trust that they know what their needs are.
I'll be honest, I internally questioned their decision. So I'm thinking, I don't know, clean water, wells, food, shelter, livestock, something to sustain life. And especially when the country was at that time 83%, 85% famine, and it's up to 90 now. Like, yeah, I questioned. I'm like, really, a school? This is what you blank check. You say you want a school, one wish, but that's what they said. We went with it, and they were right.
Well, knowledge is power, so you can change a nation through obviously the knowledge of Jesus, but the knowledge of everything, how life works, and that nutrition, and that, everything you learn from school. I mean, you think about it. I mean, we take it so for granted, just that we have this knowledge, but it was on purpose that we have this knowledge.
Yeah, and the school is teaching those things. The school is teaching farming and livestock handling and chicken rearing and all these things. Building, so it's all inclusive, and all they needed was building.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's amazing. You guys travel and doing your everything you do. I'm sure you've come across just some crazy situations you've gotten yourself into, and or you found yourself in. Maybe we'll put it that way. But what you got? Any good stories about just some situation you find yourself in? You go, okay, God, like what's going on now? How are we going to get out of this? Or I think what some people don't understand, they've only seen a missionary maybe show up at their church and be boring, but it's really an adventure out there. That's part of what I like to show at with Mission Field Media, is just what an adventure life is with God in general, but missions work and especially, I think people will have to have a little something inside them that go, okay, I'm all right with an adventure or whatever happens. So what's some good like stories of just finding yourself? I think you told me you were running from a wildfire or something at one point.
We were. Yeah, do you want to tell that one?
Yeah, we were in South Sudan, and we were just sitting there talking with one of the teachers, and he kind of keeps getting distracted, kind of looking behind him, and he's like, he finally just interrupted the conversation. He said, I think I hear a fire. And, we're trying to listen. We don't hear anything, don't see anything, and thinking, okay, whatever. But he was convinced there's some sort of a fire going on. And we decided, because we've learned this before, trust the locals. Because you can't tell doesn't mean they don't know what's going on. So we said, there's apparently a fire. We need to get out of here. And so it's one of those moments where, they always talk about you need to have your go bag that has your most essential items. And so it was, okay, we got to grab the go bag. I was wearing flip-flops. I'm like, can I run from a fire in flip-flops, or do I need to change my shoes? Or is changing my shoes going to be too
How
late?
much time? Yeah.
All these decisions that settle, all the training that you hear about these things, and now here it is in front of you, and you got to make these immediate decisions. And so we got on a motorcycle, and we had a driver, and he takes us out of there. And meanwhile, the children are scrambling to go to basically put this fire out. They go to cut down the grass, build a barrier so that the fire can't leap. And the children are just being dispersed everywhere, cutting things down with machetes. We go out of there, and as soon as we get onto the road, we see immediately just how close the fire is. It's on the other side of the road. And we're just going past this fire. There's all these thousands of bugs flying through the air, flying into our faces, everything, because they're fleeing the fire too. And then the birds are coming and swooping and picking up the bugs. I mean, it was a whole like Disney scene almost.
More like Alfred Hitchcock.
And,
Yeah.
and,
What Disney movies are you watching?
Yeah. and then the road has a fork in the road. And now Douglas didn't see the fork to the right. He thought the road just went one way.
I'm staring at the fire because I feel the heat almost melting my skin.
Yeah.
So I didn't look to the right.
And so he thinks we're about to enter this ring of fire because the Y on the left-hand side is completely engulfed. And he is telling me, tell the driver to stop now. And I'm like, I'm not telling the driver to stop because I knew what we were doing. I knew we were going to go to the right. And there just wasn't time to explain it. So I was just like, yeah. He's like, tell the driver to stop.
I'm ready to bail.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just hope he holds on long enough. to realize we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And so sure enough, the driver veered to the right, and Douglas was kind of like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. And we made it out. We went out to the town, and yeah, the children, the villagers kind of got that fire under control, and we were able to return it. When we returned, we saw just all that burnt land and just how close we were to it, and just felt really blessed that, you know, we were with people who understand how these fires work, and that the need to get out of there was immediate. But that wasn't the story I thought that we were going to come home from that trip with. You know, we thought it was going to be stories of children reading books and playing soccer, not, well, here's the time that we fled a wildfire.
Yeah.
It happens.
Thankfully, you weren't hosting a team at that time. Not the best week to host a team of high schoolers or something, you know. You want to do missions for the rest of your life? I think I'm good.
Yeah.
What's Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the parents would have killed us if we had a high school team with us in South Sudan.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time, I was in actually Honduras. I was with the pastor, and we were at a church build, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just drive you back to your place where you're staying at night when we're done." Okay, cool. Well, you know, it gets dark, and you're out in the village. It doesn't really have any light, so it's like dark. And he has my car, and we get in the car to go home at night in the dark. And oh yeah, the lights don't work, and the signals don't work, and I think my license is up to date, but I don't have an actual copy of it with me. So if we get stopped, it's going to be a whole thing. So if you get stopped while you don't have lights going through the middle of the village and then the city, there's definitely some adventures. I heard you had kind of a similar adventure yourself. And I was curious what that story is and where that took place.
Yeah. So you understand the dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because it was actually here on this island in Nicaragua that we're at now. And in fact, the lady that just walked behind me, it was her. I took her down the volcano to the ferry or to the local town that's here, and it's about 46 minutes if you're full throttle on the moto all the way down the hill. So you can imagine coming back up the hill, it's going to be a little bit longer. Well, the headlights didn't work. So we're on an island in the middle of a lake, no electricity, no street lights, dark. And I'm like,
you can drive into a lake at any moment.
I mean, even when the lights do work, I mean, when people are walking out on the street, you don't see them. You don't see the dogs. You don't see the edge of the road that's a little bit of a cliff. You don't see the pot. You don't see any of that stuff. I mean, I don't know how many speed bumps when you're near a town that I've gone over full throttle. And, you know, we're both like off the seat.
Yeah, that's how I learned the word tumalo in Honduras. What's tumalo mean? Oh, it means speed bump. Okay, that one was shaken into my memory.
Yeah, so you've been there, man. And
yeah.
And I'm trying to come up this volcano with just the flash of a turn signal. So for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, I just have beep, beep. And it's like, quick.
Everyone thinks you're about to turn.
Remember the road for 3 seconds, and then remember the road for 3 seconds. I finally got back. I closed my eyes for the rest of the night, and I just saw blink. But yeah, that was my experience here with no lights, just a yellow blank for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then finally, in the last 5 kilometers, somebody came driving behind me, and they had mercy on my poor soul. And they flashed their lights so I could get out in front of them, and then they just guided me home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you get the dark. It was fun.
Yeah, I've tried to hold the phone with the phone light out there. Like, what's happening over there? Yeah. Oh my gosh, and pray it doesn't get snatched out of your hand too while you're doing that. Or hit a branch, or who knows what could happen. But Yeah, I definitely know how that goes.
Wouldn't have it
There's
any other way.
yeah, it's an adventure, but honestly, it's like anything else. It comes down to just trusting God, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so
But
much better than a life I could have picked for myself.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so people that are listening to this, they are obviously love what you guys are doing and want to get involved or come be a part of your team, whether it's praying or financially, or come visit you or do a project with you. Like, how do people get connected to you guys?
Yeah, you can go to our website, fulcrummissions.org, or find us on Facebook, also Fulcrum Missions. Give us a like, follow us. That's where you'll find updates about what we're doing. You'll hear about our projects that we have going on, other just missions related content. You can also just directly contact us through Facebook or the contact form on our website. If you want to know more information about how to get involved, ask more questions, or donate as well, you can find that on the website. Any interaction, we love to bring people along, just to experience what missions is. And like we say, our missions field isn't just abroad; it's at home too. It's working on changing hearts of the people in our local community as well, and across the U.S. So, any opportunity we have to connect, we love to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I tell people all the time, missions is can change borders, but it's who you are. You know, it's a lifestyle. It gets in your blood. But that's what I encourage people, even listening to this or watching this. Look around you. Try to take a step back out of your conscious self and look around and see, like, this is a mission field. Who's coming into my life today? Whose path am I crossing? Who's hurting? Who can I talk to or pray for or do something tangible for? You don't have to go to another country. It is amazing and awesome. And we are, I think everyone should be a part of it, going and sending. But we're in a missions field. You just got to have the right mindset and the eyes, you know, look around and see it.
God's kingdom it's global. It's everywhere. And it's just a matter, are you in it or are you not? And for me, it's like, if Christ is king, and he is, and if I accept him to be king of my life, I want to be the best obedient warrior that I can be. I don't want to go meet the heroes of faith. I don't want to sit there and listen to Peter or John, and they talk about how they were crucified upside down and how Stephen was stoned and all this for the Lord. And I don't want to be just sitting there like, listen to these stories, and I'm like, what did you do for the kingdom of Christ? And be like, well, I said the prayer and accepted him, and then
I showed up Sunday morning and went home and checked the box.
if the weather wasn't bad,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
exactly.
know, and so that's what I did for Christ. Like, no, I want to be telling stories with that. You know,
Yeah,
just like a snowboarder, we come down the hill and we talk about what we just experienced. I wanted to be able to do that with great heroes of faith as well. And yeah, I encourage anybody that has like you say, just look around through the kingdom mindset and see, how can I serve, and trust that you don't need what you think you need. And you just go out and be generous with your words, your kindness, your love, your service, your money. Just be generous for the kingdom of Christ, and do everything through the lens of one. God's watching. How do I make him smile on me?
yeah. What I love about the disciples too, and I'm trying not to sidetrack too much, but you mentioned them and their stories and what they did, but they were all kind of grease fire human beings before Christ.
Really?
There was like no disqualifying person. Like there were some terrible people. Not all, you know. They all have stories of like today you'd be like, you know, if you go into the wrong church, they might go, that person has done this or that. They can't be, you know, they have like a limit or a ceiling, you know, but that's not true. God used some of the wildest stories and redemption, and those people made the largest impact, and we're still talking about them today.
Yeah, I mean, you could even take a modern day guy like Sam Childers, who was also known as the machine gun preacher.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both from Pennsylvania. We both have an addiction past. And this guy, we went on one trip and then came back and decided to start a church to help fund himself so he could actually start building orphanages and rescuing child soldiers in South Sudan. I actually talked with him in November when we were going out there because he's only about 150 kilometers away from us in another town called Namuli. And we were hoping that we could meet up. But then when we got there, the rain season was extended. Rain season in South Sudan means no traveling on the roads. I mean, it's pretty dangerous anyways to do road travel there.
Yeah.
Especially in the rain. So yeah, we couldn't connect. But one of these days we will. But yeah, God doesn't care about your past. There is no, like you say, there is no disqualification.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Which is great because I've never really been qualified.
Yeah. Yeah. The qualification is putting your yes on the table, saying whatever you need, God. I'm gonna say yes and go do it, even if it's hanging insulation underneath a house for 2 weeks, so my husband will come on a vicious trip and see.
Well played.
Dang. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast, and wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to joining you out there sometime in South Sudan.
It will happen. The wagons will meet eventually.
Yes, we'll make it happen. All right, you guys take care.
Hey, stay blessed.
Thanks again for joining us on the Mission Field Media Podcast. We so appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to what God is doing all around the world through these missionaries and ministries. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and to find us on all the social media apps and follow us there as well. Tell all your friends about it. We couldn't do any of this without the listeners like yourself and our sponsors. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Mission Field Media Podcast.